Where does the name for Chester, or in Welsh Caer, come from? So today I'm in Chester. It's a city on the banks of the River Dee in the county of Cheshire in England. Let's start with the earliest name for the settlement. Now, it's fairly well known that the Romans called their settlement here Dewa, or Dewa Vitrix, and a lot of people that think that's from Latin, but I'm going to ruffle a few feathers here and say it's actually from Brythonic, the ancestor language to Welsh that was spoken all across Britain before, during and slightly after the Roman occupation. I'll explain why. So the Romans called this place Dewa, and it's named that after the River Dee. Now, in Brythonic, the word Dewa means a goddess, and it probably is named after the goddess of the river. Even in modern Welsh now, the name for the River Dee is the Dyfrdwy. Dyfr being Old Welsh for dŵr, which means waters, and dwy coming from that word that means goddess. Now, what people get mixed up with is that in Latin, the word for goddess is diwa. Now, dewa and diwa are very similar words. They come from the same root in Proto-Indo-European, but Latin was written phonetically. If it was named after the Latin word for goddess, the name of the city would be Diwa and not Dewa. Now, the Romans founded their settlement here around the year 70, but within a couple of decades of their founding of this settlement, they changed the name slightly from just Dewa, after the river, to Dewa Victrix. Victrix is Latin for victorious, and it comes from the name of the legion that was stationed here, the 20th Legion, Valeria Victrix. It was around this time that another name for the settlement arose, and that came from the Brythonic language, the ancestor to Welsh. The name was Caer y Llion Mawr. We have Caer, which means a fortress, which means the, Llion, which means legions, it's borrowed from Latin, legiones, and then we have Mawr, which means big or great, so literally the great fortress of the legion. Now, over time that's been shortened, and that's where the modern Welsh name for the town comes from, Caer, which simply means fortress, but is a shortened form of the great fortress of the legion. So, before the Romans left Britain, there were two names for the city. Caer y Llion Mawr in Brythonic, the great fortress of the legion, and Dewa Victrix, the victorious Deva, the Latin name for the city. However, after the Romans collapsed, another group of people came, and they were the Anglo-Saxons, and they spoke Old English. Now, what they called it was a translation of the Brythonic name, Lega, which means of the legion, and Ceaster, which means a camp or a fortification. So it meant the fortification of the legion. That name got shortened from Lega Caster down to just Caster and into modern English Chester, which is where the English name comes from. So the town name literally means camp in English or fortress in Welsh. Anyway, diolch, thank you. Give us a like, give us a share, give us a subscribe, and if you want to help me on my quest to explain every place name in Wales and a few outside of it, you can on my Patreon. The link's in my bio. Diolch, have a good one.